I'm Mar Gonzalez from the OECD Secretariat, and together with Eduardo Carnesecchi, who's also participating to this workshop, we work with the Working Party on Manufacturing and Materials at the OECD, and I'm also like bridging the work on test guidelines and guidance documents with the working group that is in charge of the development of test guidelines, the national coordinators at OECD. So I know that we have a brief time today for the discussions, but I think we have had over the last 2 days very intensive discussions, and I had some points that I would like to share with you. Just to remind you that we had a workshop, I think it was back, if correct me if I'm wrong, Claire, on the 15th of September, where we had more detailed explanation about Nanomet, about NanoHarmony, and how we collaborate together to make sure that the communication between the two programs goes as smooth as possible. So I will really invite you to go to the NanoHarmony website and log into that into that webinar that we had just to go for more details. Today, what I would like just to mention are a couple of points that I thought that came to my mind and that I thought I should be stressing. Yes?
Could you please switch on your video? I think it's nice to see you when you're speaking, even though you don't see us.
I know. The problem is that I have a problem with my tiny camera, and I have chameleon eyes. I have two screens, and one where you see me and one where I speak to where I see the slide. Sorry.
Okay.
Mind. And I'm sorry. I just have a problem with my laptop lately, but I can't go to the office to fix that. If I'm not going to tell you what are test guidelines, because I think the fact that you are participating in the NanoHarmony and that one of the objectives of this project is to support the development of test guidelines and guidance documents for OECD development, I think that's something that we can skip. If you can go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So just to remind you, very simple how this is going to be working. So at OECD, we don't do the research. The research is something that you are doing as part of the NanoHarmony projects you are involved of. Many of you are also involved in the different group of expert groups that we have at OECD. But for those that are new to this, I would just like to raise some points on those areas to keep in mind. I think we share experts, but we don't share you all. So it's really important that we keep one another and the two participants or the two groups, the two bodies, NanoHarmony and both the OECD different groups, aware on progress that is achieved and how this is done. I think it's important because it's just going to increase the transparency and the collaboration, and you are also going to ensure that there is like early feedback on areas that are of importance or on the checklist for the OECD when you come at our end with a proposal for a draft test guide or a draft guidance document. I think another point that it's really that I would like to stress is to keep the regulatory needs as a key component and in the back of your head and in the front of your head in moving forward. One thing that we have experienced and that is quite that is normal is that the requirements for regulatory purpose are not always the same as the scientific interest, and this can cause a little bit frustration. So having an early feedback from regulators on this, it's quite crucial, and it's just going to simplify the process in moving forward. So just keep early discussions between regulators and scientists, and just obviously just to stress that NanoHarmony is a good example on how this conversion can be achieved, and we look forward to continue working with you on this. Next slide, please. Just to keep you aware, there are recent documents that have been published that have been developed for nanomaterials. It's important that you keep those in mind because they will have already concepts, that will have a glossary, that will have a specific approach that might be useful for you in moving forward, and that should be referenced to. There are Many other test guidelines and guidance documents available that you should also keep in mind, because it's important to keep them in moving forward. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. We have to keep as close as possible. The position at OECD is that test guidelines are in principle applicable to nanomaterials. We obviously recognize that there are some specificities of nanomaterials that need to be taken into account, and that is one of the reasons that you are doing all this work at your end, okay? So I think the challenge for you, for all of you involved in NanoHarmony, is not only between your respective projects when you have like synergies, complementarities, and common issues, as you have discussed yesterday, for example, on the issue on solubility and dissolution rate, but it's also to keep in mind that there are documents, existing documents that have already addressed those issues, and that in moving forward, we have to make sure that this doesn't cause more discrepancies. I'm not saying that what is written in existing document is written in stone. They can, of course, be updated as needed, but there is a procedure to follow that can be cumbersome, so we need to be pragmatic on it. Next slide. You will be hearing from time to time the acronyms WPMN, WNT. These are two distinct OECD bodies. You can see on the screen which projects that you have discussed in the past days fall under the WPMN and which ones fall under the WNT, which is the national coordinators, okay? What we're going to be trying to do is to make sure that this convoluted process within OECD doesn't affect your end. The only thing that we're going to make sure is that to increase communication, to increase the exchange, and most of the time, so you are aware, you will have joint expert group from these two OECD bodies, and you will be invited as participants to the NanoHarmony framework. But and sometimes it's going to be NanoHarmony that is going to be inviting OECD experts that are not normally participating on this, such as these plenary discussions today, where we can update one another about the discussion over the last 2 days. Okay, so the idea is really to facilitate the progress between NanoHarmony and Nanomat OECD, to enable the exchange, and we will appreciate, of course, your feedback. What we want to avoid, both, we have been discussing this with several colleagues from NanoHarmony. What we want to avoid is to have researchers and all of you participating in this project exhausted with multiple meetings and duplications. The idea is to make your life easier, so we welcome feedback all along the process, okay? So next slide, please. So just keep in mind, in moving forward, there are some checklists that will be important to fulfill from the WNT, from the OECD side, in order to have your proposal accepted and agreed. They have to respond to a regulatory need. I think you have that covered. They support the uptake of new and complex methods by relevant and sufficient guidance on testing and interpretation. This is what you have been discussing the last days. So we appreciate you continue doing that. Checklist, they have to be robust and reliable. They have to be mindful on animal welfare consideration, mindful of economic implications, and they have to be broadly accessible. If they are not broadly accessible, even if you fulfill the other requirements, it's quite likely that you will have a pushback. So just keep that in mind. OECD is a big organization. We have a program that is that has been working well, but it's hard. We have to do baby steps in some cases, and I know that can be frustrating. So just want to overstress that. At the end of the day, it's not going to be neither you or me who's going to decide whether the products are approved at OECD. These are done by the WNT at my end, and further another body which is called the joint meeting. And member countries have to agree by consensus, okay? So you have to keep every single country participating at OECD in agreement with the proposal forward. So this is something, please keep that in mind. I think what is being done within NanoHarmony and the way it has been building is really going into that direction. So I'm not worried, but I just want to reiterate the need for close communication on this. And I think I will leave it there because it's 12:15. But I'm happy. The next slide, I think that are going to be distributed. It's just like contact details in case you have further questions.